We extend a warm welcome to one and all. In this session, which corresponds to the Saturday afternoon portion of the program, we will learn what we individually can do to pursue peace with others. We will begin with a music video presentation. The video will encourage us to welcome others into our peaceful worldwide brotherhood. Please enjoy.
Welcome to all who gather here this day to hear God's word and to learn His way. Life-giving truth He offers to us all. With thankfulness of heart, we respond to His call.
Thanks to our God for brothers such as these who welcome us and who seek to please. May we keep holding men of that sort dear, and now we welcome others who meet with us here.
God's invitation reaches all mankind, that all sincere ones the truth may find. God by His Son has drawn us to His side, so welcome one another with hearts opened wide. God's invitation reaches all mankind, that all sincere ones the truth may find. God by His Son has drawn us to His side, so welcome one another with hearts opened wide.
Jesus commanded, let the truth be heard.
So hat es Jesus uns gesagt, à tous il apportait l'espoir. Angakanda ko sa zamongu.
Tawad mata, ikwas lete, behulum poda.
Pragniemy iść by wszędzie tam,
Azuanu negwaso,
Abebe, hone fehedo kodena. Kita cari orang-orang yang cinta damai, bukahedan, berai kunei nabia pula, não desistir de procurar.
ustrajmo wierno sobie prawy czas.
Om ooit meer landen in de sky.
Ja tu i uaput.
마음이 지킨 많은 사람들
tu faixa awarushé. far, låt din vilja ske. Väg vi går, din son, den enfödde käre, vår synd betalat för. Så om vi nu lever eller dör, till dig Jehova vi hör.
Please join in singing song number 29, entitled Living Up to Our Name. Song number 29. At times, our imperfections can disrupt our peace and that of others. During the next symposium, we will consider things we must avoid in order to cultivate peaceful relationships. Please give your attention to Brother Harold Corcoran, a helper to the Publishing Committee, as he develops the theme, Put Away Peace Wreckers, Inappropriate Boasting.
What comes to your mind when you hear the expression, put away? You may think of related expressions such as cast aside, dispose of, discard, get rid of. What did we have to put away to become a Christian? The Bible in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4 and verse 22 provides the answer. That's Ephesians 4:22. You were taught to put away the old personality that conforms to your former course of conduct and that is being corrupted according to its deceptive desires. So we had to put away the old personality. But it's one thing to put it away, it's something else to keep it away. And that's why in the very next verse, verse 23, Paul encourages us to do this. And you should continue to be made new in your dominant mental attitude. That's so important to keep it away, because the old personality has traits that can become peace wreckers. This symposium will consider 5 peace wreckers that we should put away and keep away. Each talk will include the following main points. Number 1, it will define the peace wrecker. Number 2, it will explain how it wrecks peace. And number 3, we will consider how to put it away. What is the very first one we're going to talk about? It is inappropriate boasting. What is inappropriate boasting? Basically, it's self-praise, and the Bible condemns self-praise. Notice Proverbs chapter 27 and verse 2. Let someone else praise you, and not your own mouth, others, and not your own lips. Self-praise is an evidence of pride, and that causes one to elevate himself above others. Some might develop an unhealthy pride about their accomplishments, even in the ministry. It happened in the first century. Paul had to write the Corinthian congregation about the dissensions that they were having, the lack of peace they were experiencing. Why? Well, some of the congregation were puffed up in pride about themselves or other men, such as Paul, Apollos, Cephas. They were giving too much attention to themselves and to other men. Well, how could that happen today? Well, let's imagine a group of brothers talking, and one in the group says, with Jehovah's help and with diligent prayer and effort, I finally got a Bible study. But right away, another one in the group proudly declares, I have 4 Bible studies, 2 are attending meetings, and 1 will soon be baptized. Could such a statement be a peace wrecker? How does inappropriate boasting wreck peace? Well, it's not wrong to take pleasure in our work and to thank Jehovah for the success that we may have. But inappropriate boasting about our accomplishments can stir up competition, envy, and rivalry. We must remember that self-promotion does not originate with our Heavenly Father, the God of peace. Where does it originate? 1 John 2:16 says, the showy display of one's means of life does not originate with the Father, but originates with the world. And wouldn't you not agree that the world is filled with self-praise? Even on their social media, we see this. Some of the material that people post on the social media is designed to make the one appear very important. And it is a showy display of their accomplishments, material possessions, or their expensive vacations that they enjoyed. In other words, it's all about, look at me. Well, we want to avoid getting caught up in the world spirit of self-promotion that wrecks peace. To illustrate just how devastating the peace wrecker inappropriate boasting can be, let's briefly consider the Bible character Haman. He was a proud and haughty man, and he boasted a lot. Esther chapter 5 tells us that he was boasting with his family and friends about his wealth, his many sons, how the king had promoted him to a high station, he was above all the other servants, and that he'd had a special meal or banquet with the king and queen. But Haman was hateful and arrogant. and he was plotting to kill Jehovah's faithful servant Mordecai. But his scheme and his attitudes were exposed, and what happened? The very stake that Haman had built to hang Mordecai on, he was hung on. And it reminds us, doesn't it? At Isaiah chapter 29, verse 20, the Bible says, "The boaster will come to his finish." So because of the devastating effects that improper boasting can have on ourselves and others, we do not even want to give the impression of boasting. In the following dramatization, notice how a sister's actions are misunderstood as boasting.
Put away from yourselves every kind of malicious bitterness, anger, wrath, screaming and abusive speech, as well as everything injurious. Did anyone start the day thinking, I believe I'll show malicious bitterness to my brother today? Of course not. And yet the potential is there, isn't it? But genuine affection fights peace wreckers. And affection grows when we really know our brothers and sisters well. We remember their joys and pain, their selfless zeal, how they came to love Jehovah, and what they endure.
I'll get back as soon as I can. Love you. Bye. Oh, no.
Lovely. Okay.
Hey, love. So sorry. Gotta run.
Okay, I'll ring you about this week.
Thanks. Love you both.
See you. The afternoon will be better.
Nana. Hello, Hayley, darling. I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's not too bad. I got this.
Oh,
How are you, though?
thank you. I'm so sorry.
Oh, poor thing. Let me clear this up. Oh, Nana, it's Sunday today, isn't it? This one. It's felt like such a long day.
It has fun.
Thanks, Nana. Hello everyone, Hayley from Junior Design here, helping you to be effortlessly elegant. I want to welcome my new followers and thank everyone for subscribing to this channel. So first up, I got this gorgeous earring and necklace set. And as you can see, the first is I've done it this new tone. And that's great because it
Can you
goes with
believe
the
her?
outfit that you can wear.
Hayley's business feed.
But what makes this set really special, giving you that understated elegance look. If you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button below. Because as you know, when you look this good, you feel great.
Was the sister in this video boasting inappropriately? No. She was a humble servant of Jehovah, kindly and patiently helping her elderly relative. But do you recall her business website and the presentation she made about her jewelry products? She said, "When you look this good, you feel great." Her Christian sister was upset and took those comments and her actions to be boastful. Well, this video reminds us to think about how our words and our actions may appear to others. So now we're going to get to the question, how do we put away inappropriate boasting? A key point that we must always remember to help us to do just that is recorded in the book of 1 Corinthians, chapter 4 and verse 7. 1 Corinthians 4:7. For who makes you different from another? Indeed, what do you have that you did not receive? If in fact you did receive it, why do you boast as though you did not receive it? What's the point of this scripture? We do not want to boast about ourselves, but give all credit to Jehovah for the good that we can do. Now, some people are proud about their good looks, their popularity, their wealth, their position, their physical strength, musical ability. But remember, King David of ancient Israel had all of those assets. But throughout his entire life, he never became a boastful person. He remained humble. Why? In Psalm 113, 5 through 8, David gave all credit to Jehovah. He said, in his case, Jehovah stooped down and took this lowly one and raised him up to sit with nobles. And on every occasion that he had, David would always say, praise Jehovah, boast about his holy name. Well, we, like David, should boast in Jehovah. The Apostle Paul encouraged us to do that at 1 Corinthians 1:31. The one who boasts, let him boast in Jehovah. What does that mean? It means that we boast in the privilege of knowing the true God and of being able to be used by him to accomplish his will. Now, another way that we can put away improper boasting is to not talk about ourselves, but to acknowledge the good and the fine qualities that our fellow workers have. Humble and modest people don't brag about what they do, but they turn their attention to their fellow workers and see how Jehovah is using them and blessing them in his service. And when we do that, that creates a very peaceful, happy environment. Well, may we continue to put away and keep away inappropriate boasting, self-praise. How? By giving praise and thanks and honor to Jehovah for our accomplishments, and by commending our fellow workers for all the good qualities they have and how Jehovah is using them in his service. By doing so, we will preserve our precious possession of peace with Jehovah and with our brothers. Brother Seth Hyatt, a helper to the service committee, will now present the next talk of this symposium, Put Away Peace Wreckers, Envy.
What is envy? Do you know? It's important that we be able to identify the symptoms of envy. Why? Because envy is an expression of hatred. It's an enemy of peace. And if left unchecked, it can result in spiritual death. As described in the Bible, envy has two symptoms. The first is probably more familiar. An envious person wants what someone else has. It's the second symptom that makes envy especially dangerous. An envious person not only wants what someone else has, he doesn't want the other person to have it. Here's an example. In the first century, Jewish religious leaders envied Jesus because Jesus was much appreciated by the common people. Jesus dealt with people, including lowly ones, in a way that dignified them. As a result, he was appreciated. The religious leaders envied him, but rather than adjusting their own way of dealing with people, they attacked Jesus verbally in an effort to destroy his good reputation. They spread malicious slander. Not only did they want what Jesus had, they didn't want Jesus to have it. No wonder envy is listed as one of the works of the flesh in Galatians chapter 5, verse 21. It's a dangerous quality that we need to avoid. How does envy disrupt peace? Envy undermines, damages, or even destroys relationships in the family and in the congregation. Consider the example of Jacob and his 12 sons. Jacob had special affection for one of his sons, Joseph. As a result, Joseph's brothers became envious. How did the envy manifest itself? What was the fruitage? Well, they dealt treacherously with Joseph, selling him into slavery. And as if that weren't bad enough, they compounded their wrong by lying to Jacob, telling him that Joseph was dead. According to the Bible account, Jacob refused to be comforted. He mourned Joseph for years. What a terrible consequence of envy. It's clear that envy allows no room for love, compassion, or kindness. Those qualities go out the window, and they're replaced by qualities such as hatred, strife, fits of anger. Can envy disrupt the peace of a congregation? Consider the examples of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. They envied Moses and Aaron in the congregation of Israel. How did that envy manifest itself? Well, they began to speak negatively, critically of Jehovah's representatives, even accusing Moses of playing the prince and lifting himself up above the others. They forgot that Jehovah had put Moses and Aaron in their positions of responsibility. How did Jehovah react to that manifestation of envy? He destroyed those 3 men and all who supported them. For a time, the congregation was robbed of its peace, and the account certainly provides some insight into Jehovah's view of envy. Now, by this point, you're no doubt thinking, I would never want something so badly that I would damage someone else to get it. But we're all imperfect. We have a treacherous heart, and envy is insidious. In the following dramatization, notice how envy threatens to disrupt peace.
Really? Bad news?
She's a sweetie. Reminds me, I want to speak to her about a necklace.
You too? You don't think she's showing off?
No.
Everyone thinks she's Miss Wonderful. She's starting to agree.
Is this just about Hayley?
Seems it's all about Hayley.
Your tea's getting cold.
And you're changing the subject.
No, but you've brought this up before. What is it? You're friends. You pioneer together.
Yeah, and that's why I'm concerned.
Concern is good. But is there just a little bit of envy in there?
What did you notice? Well, Emily is suffering from an onset of envy. Did you notice how she questioned Hayley's motives? And potentially called Haley's reputation into question. It could happen to any one of us. So how do we battle and conquer envy? By cultivating two beautiful qualities: humility and contentment. Let's see what the Bible has to say about humility. Turn with me, please, to Philippians chapter 2, and we're going to begin reading in verse 3. Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Do nothing out of contentiousness or out of egotism. What is egotism? Well, it's having an exaggerated opinion of oneself. Do you think that the religious leaders in Jesus' day, Joseph's brothers, Korah, Dathan, and Abiram, had this affliction? Did they have an exaggerated view of themselves? Without question. But it's an affliction that could affect any one of us. What is the solution? Well, Paul continues, but with humility or lowliness of mind, consider others superior to you, or consider others as more important than yourself. Now, that kind of mindset allows a person to do what's stated in verse 4. As you look out not only for your own interests, but also for the interests of others. A humble person looks out for others. He doesn't feel that he deserves more than others. Contentment. A content person is satisfied with what he has. He doesn't compare his privilege or his possession with another person's privilege or possession. He's content. Humility, contentment. With Jehovah's help, we can cultivate these beautiful qualities, qualities that leave no room for envy. And in doing so, we promote peace, inner peace, peace in our family, and peace in the congregation. And you can be sure that Jehovah appreciates that. Brother Gaius Glockentin, a helper to the publishing committee, will now present the next talk of this symposium. Put away peace wreckers, dishonesty.
What comes to your mind when you hear the word dishonesty? Maybe you think of Satan, the father of the lie. Or Ananias and his wife comes to your mind. They lost their lives because of lying. We do not want to imitate such ones. We avoid lying. Is that, though, as far as our honesty goes? Our holy God Jehovah wants us to be holy as well, and that is why he urged the ancient Israelites not to deceive others, as mentioned in Leviticus 19, verse 11. Does this not add some color to honesty? Dishonesty includes, and please take note of this definition, intentionally leading someone to a wrong conclusion. For example, by twisting the truth or by providing only certain details, we endanger our peace with others. Why can we say so? How does dishonesty wreck peace? Peace and a peaceful relationship are built on trust. Trusting someone makes you feel safe and secure, puts you at ease. There is no peace without trust. How do we develop trust? Trust is the result of spending time together, speaking the truth with one another. We trust people that act unselfishly and do not use crooked speech, as the Bible puts it. If someone deceived us only once or was dishonest in another way, we might start to question everything they say. one single act of dishonesty may be enough. It can ruin their reputation. As bad as this is, dishonesty has the potential to create even greater damage. Dishonesty can be compared with a highly contagious virus. Dishonesty breeds dishonesty. People who have contact with deceitful, dishonest person are in danger of being infected. Dishonesty might not only wreck one relationship, but multiple relationships, putting the unity and peace of the whole group at risk. This reminds us of the relationship between Laban and Jacob in the Bible book of Genesis. Based on the agreement with Laban, Jacob worked hard for 7 years in order to marry Laban's daughter Rachel. And despite this high price that Jacob had to pay, those years seemed for him just like a few days. Sadly, instead of Rachel, he received the older daughter, Leah, as wife. So now, Leah was also part of the deception. What was the result after Jacob had found out that Laban tricked him? The trust was gone. The relationship had suffered to a great degree. Dishonesty wrecked the peace in those relationships, and so the following 7 years of work for Rachel were bitter. And Laban's dishonesty emboldened him to continue in his course. He unfairly changed Jacob's wages 10 times. He deceived Jacob. Because of Laban's dishonesty, the peace in the whole family was disrupted. Let us now continue to watch the next segment of the dramatization. We left Emily and Celia sitting in a coffee shop. Please watch carefully and notice how Emily is tempted to alter the truth.
You pioneer together.
I know, and that's why I'm concerned.
Concern is good, but is there just a little bit of envy in there?
I thought you would understand.
I think I understand your feelings.
Not about Haley.
I haven't seen all her posts. There's nothing immoral, is there?
No.
Good. That's not like her. Now, if it's a case of her being more careful how she comes across, that's another matter. Why don't you talk to her?
Maybe.
Emily, you are a beautiful spiritual sister. You know, for years, I had a bad habit comparing myself to others. My own insecurity hurt me and my closest friends.
So you don't think I should have spoken to Celia?
Oh, I'm glad you've asked Celia about it. Someone you trust. What did she say?
Well, she definitely understands how I feel.
Good. And about Haley's posts?
Well, she hasn't seen everything she has out there. She did say that Haley needs to be more careful how she comes across.
What did she suggest?
That I should tell her that she needs to stop, but I'm too worked up.
Look. If Celia agrees that Haley's doing something she shouldn't, you should talk to her. You'll find the right time.
Thanks for understanding. I'm hungry. Can you say the prayer?
Sure. Jehovah, we would like to praise you for your generosity and kindness.
Did you notice how Emily just heard what she wanted to hear? In talking to her husband Jake, she painted an incomplete picture. She did not relate that Celia had no opinion about the social media posts of Haley. And contrary to what she told her husband, Celia did not encourage her to tell Haley to stop. Our brothers and sisters deserve the truth. But Emily didn't relate that, did she? She was dishonest, something that can have a damaging effect, as we will see later. Jehovah wants us to put away this peace record dishonesty. He wants us to always be truthful, even in small matters. Therefore, how do we put away dishonesty? Let us please turn to Ephesians chapter 4. Here, the Apostle Paul reminds us of a reason to be honest. This is Ephesians chapter 4, and we want to read verse 25. Therefore, now that you have put away deceit, each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, because we are members belonging to one another. Did you notice why we put away deceit and speak truth with one another? Paul says, because we are members belonging to one another. In other words, Paul reminds us of the fact that dishonesty affects others, our brothers, our relationship with them. So then, knowing this, how can we put away dishonesty? The answer is by considering the consequences of dishonesty and honesty. This will help us to do the right thing. Now, what are the consequences of dishonesty? As we've seen in the case of Laban and Jacob, it will disrupt the peace with others. And since Jehovah hates dishonesty, it will also disrupt our peace with Jehovah. On the other hand, what are the consequences of honesty? While dishonesty might seem in the moment to be the easier way out, in the long run, honesty will enable us to have good friends. They want to enjoy peace as well, and therefore they are also searching for someone they can trust. In this way, we are like body members belonging to one another. And even more importantly, we will enjoy a good conscience, peace with God. Let us therefore put away this peace record dishonesty by sticking to the truth even in small things. Dear brothers and sisters, Jehovah knows that for us imperfect humans, this is not always easy. Yet He promises to help us and to bless every step we take to build trust and peace, and not to wreck it. Brother Patrick LaFranca, a helper to the Personnel Committee, will now present the next talk of this symposium, Put Away Peace Wreckers, Harmful Gossip.
Do you gossip? No? Well, whenever we share any news about others, that is a form of gossip. Because we are interested in others, we might say, I'm really concerned about Brother Smith's health. Or, did you hear about Sister Brown's experience in the ministry? Is this type of gossip harmful? Generally not. Still, we need to be careful. At 1 Timothy 5:13, Paul spoke out against certain sisters who were gossipers and meddlers in other people's affairs. We do not need to know and share everything we know about what's happening in other people's lives. What if, for example, Brother Smith did not want others to know details about his health problem? We need to respect the privacy of others. Or what if talking about Sister Brown's experience turns into, oh, you know, she always brags about her success in the ministry? When our talk about others turns negative, it can develop into slander. Slander is making deliberate false statements that damage another's reputation. Let's now consider how harmful gossip wrecks peace. If you have spread harmful gossip about someone and he hears about it, when you see him the next time, what will be the look on his face? Please read with me Proverbs 25:23. The north wind brings a downpour, and a gossiping tongue brings an angry face. The north wind in Palestine brought dark clouds and rain. Likewise, when the one you gossiped about catches wind of this and he sees you, he will have a gloomy, angry face. There will be a storm and a chilled relationship. Now, when that happens, you may feel very badly and apologize, but you may have damaged his reputation in a way that may be difficult to undo. Listen to this old Jewish story. A man went about town slandering the town's wise man. Later, the malicious gossiper realized his wrong and went to the wise man and asked for his forgiveness. He offered to do whatever was needed to make amends. The wise man made one request. He told the gossiper to take a feather pillow, cut it open, and scatter the feathers to the wind. Well, the gossiper was puzzled by this request, but he did as instructed. Then he returned to the wise man. "Am I now forgiven?" he asked. "First, go and gather all the feathers," the wise man responded. "But how can I? The wind has already scattered them." The wise man replied, "It is as difficult to repair the damage done by your words as it is to recover the feathers." Yes, once spoken, hurtful words cannot be retrieved. Let's not scatter feathers in the wind. If we spread rumors, it can seriously disturb the peace of many in the congregation. We find an example of this at Acts 21, verses 20 and 21. The older men of the Jerusalem congregation explained to Paul that some Jews had spread a rumor among Jewish Christians that he had been teaching an apostasy, speaking against the law of Moses. Of course, this was a twisting of the facts. Paul never spoke disrespectfully of the law. He even went to synagogues where he reasoned on the basis of the Hebrew Scriptures. Such stories could have led some newly converted Jewish Christians to think that Paul did not respect God's arrangements, and this could have seriously disrupted the peace of the congregation. In the following dramatization, notice the effect that harmful gossip can have on the peace in a congregation.
Can you believe that? Especially as a pioneer. What kind of example is she setting?
Has Emily stopped following her?
No, not yet, but she probably will. Alistair, what do you think?
About what?
Hayley's posts on Quick Post.
Is there a problem?
Emily's told me they're all just look at me. My clothes, my hair, my makeup. And even Celia agrees with her.
Well, it's very easy to take things out of context on social media. I know that I've done that and realised later that I was wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Listen, I don't want to pull you away, but if you have a minute, would you mind giving me a hand with these boxes?
Sure.
Thanks for your help.
No problem.
Jake, back in the hall, I know you were just expressing concern, but here's something to consider. This principle is one of my favorites. It's found in Proverbs chapter 18 and verse 17.
The first to state his case seems right until the other party comes and cross-examines him. I'm not sure I understand.
It just means that sometimes we only hear one side of a story. And until we personally hear both, it's best not to draw any conclusions. And even then, if it's something negative, we wouldn't want to spread it, any more than we want something spread about ourselves.
Guess I hadn't considered that. Thanks. I'm going to apologise to Harry and Marie. And have Emily talk directly to Hayley.
Good idea.
Did you notice what Jake said after the elder graciously helped him reason on Proverbs 18:17? He said, "I had not considered that." Yes, Jake just did not stop and think before he said those negative things about Hayley. So how can we put away harmful gossip before it begins? Let's read Proverbs 15:28. The heart of the righteous one meditates before answering, but the mouth of the wicked blurts out bad things. So before we say bad things about others, we need to meditate. Now, this does not mean a long, drawn-out process. It just requires a little thought. What thoughts could have stopped Jake from repeating his wife's negative view of Hayley's post? He could have asked himself, is what I am about to say true? Is it kind, loving? How will Harry and Marie view Hayley if they hear those negative things about her? Another principle that will help us to put away harmful gossip is the so-called golden rule as recorded at Luke 6:31. Jesus said, "Just as you want men to do to you, do the same to them." This means showing empathy, putting ourselves in the place of the other person, asking ourselves, how would I feel if someone said this about me? One situation that may tempt us to engage in harmful gossip is when we believe we have been wronged by someone. Instead of applying the counsel at Matthew 5:23 and 24 and chapter 18, verse 15, to talk to the person privately, we could start talking about it to others who are not involved. Imagine if after finally talking with the person, you find out he actually did not wrong you at all. You will have made the situation much worse. But whether we are right or wrong, engaging in hurtful speech will never improve a situation. Gossip requires a speaker and a listener. Is it wrong to listen to harmful gossip? Yes. Note what Proverbs 17:4 says. A wicked man pays attention to hurtful speech, and a deceptive man listens to a malicious tongue. Think about that. In God's eyes, if we listen to hurtful, malicious speech, we too bear a heavy responsibility. By listening to the gossiper, we are encouraging him to go on. So, what should you do? Without taking on an air of self-righteousness, you could simply say, let's change the subject. Or, I don't really feel comfortable talking about this. After all, she is not here to defend herself. And if we find that a brother or sister likes to gossip, we may find it easier to avoid harmful gossip by stopping close association with that person. Proverbs 20, verse 19, frankly counsels, do not associate with one who loves to gossip. So, dear friends, let's put away harmful gossip. Doing so, we will maintain our precious peace and unity. Brother Kenneth Cook, a member of the governing body, will now present the final talk of this symposium, Put Away Peace Wreckers, Uncontrolled Anger.
Satan is the main peace wrecker. The scriptures tell us that he is driven by great anger. His anger is malicious and uncontrolled. Would any sound-minded, God-fearing person allow himself to reflect Satan's vicious anger? Of course not. That is why all true servants of God are determined to put away uncontrolled anger. But apart from uncontrolled anger, is all anger bad? The Bible does not condemn all anger. It teaches us that anger is wrong when it is uncontrolled or unjustified. At Ephesians 4:26, God's word tells us, be wrathful, but it adds, do not sin. At times, anger may simply be a strong feeling that comes into us because of being upset or annoyed by something that we see as being wrong. That in itself is not bad. But what makes anger bad is when it fills a person's heart, and he or she just loses control of it. When that happens, it may cause a person to act without a sound mind. Those who continue to lash out in anger will not gain salvation. Galatians 5:20 lists fits of anger among the works of the flesh that will prevent a person from inheriting God's kingdom. There will be no place for such ones in God's new world. A brief review of how uncontrolled anger wrecks peace for ourselves and others will highlight why this is so. Uncontrolled anger harms both the angry person as well as those around him. We read at Proverbs 29:22 that an angry person stirs up strife, adding that he commits many transgressions. One of these many sins is abusive speech. We must work to show restraint when speaking with workmates, with strangers in the ministry, with our brothers and sisters in the congregation, and with our family members. Bad feelings must be controlled. Abusive speech, ridicule, contempt, and hateful anger are wrong. Giving vent to such feelings can destroy precious friendships with other people and with Jehovah. Don't be like a volcano that will not quiet down. Just like an erupting volcano will harm those living around it, so too a person who expresses intense anger will harm those living around him. He also damages himself. In what way? Acting on anger often leads to even more aggression. So then uncontrolled anger can also affect our own peace. It can cause us to do something that we will later regret. It can have a negative effect on our health. Medical studies show that uncontrolled anger can cause high blood pressure and respiratory problems. It can also affect the liver and pancreas. And such anger can cause digestive problems. When a person becomes angry, he or she will not always think clearly. After a fit of rage, a person may become depressed. No wonder we read at Proverbs 14 and verse 30 that a calm heart gives life to the body. The disastrous consequences of uncontrolled anger are illustrated in God's Word by the actions of Simeon and Levi, sons of the patriarch Jacob. When they learned that their sister Dinah was violated by a man named Shechem, we read at Genesis 34 and verse 7 that they were offended and very angry. Now they had a valid reason to be angry, But they took their anger too far. It was uncontrolled. Simeon and Levi took vengeance on Shechem. Using deception, they attacked and killed every male in Shechem city. Then, along with the other sons of Jacob, they plundered it and took the women and little children captive. Dinah's tragic experience must have grieved Jacob greatly, yet he condemned his son's uncontrolled anger. Simeon and Levi tried to justify their actions, but that was not the end of the matter, because Jehovah was also displeased. For this reason, Jacob later foretold that the descendants of Simeon and Levi were to be scattered among the tribes of Israel. Their uncontrolled anger brought disfavor from God and from their father Jacob. We're wise to pay attention to such scriptural accounts and put away uncontrolled anger and all of the harm that it brings. In the following dramatization, notice how a person might be tempted to give in to anger.
Yes, Nana?
Don't forget eggs, dear.
No, I didn't forget.
Are you sure, love?
No, I won't forget.
Thank you so much.
Okay, love you. Bye. No.
Haley, finally, I've caught you. Do you have a minute?
Hi, Emily. Can we talk later? I'm really struggling this morning.
Do you know, it's just, we've been so busy and I've been waiting for the right moment. I'd really just like to address it.
Okay, what's up?
It's just that I've noticed your posts lately on Quick Posts.
What about them?
Well, do you really think there's something that a pioneer should be posting?
What are you talking about?
Some people might think you're bragging.
Some people? What people? It's a business account. I've got to show off my products.
I know, I get that. It's just, I don't know, it could feel like you're drawing a little too much attention to yourself.
Who would think like that? You?
No, not just me. Celia felt the same.
You spoke to Celia about this.
I didn't want to upset you. Jake said that I needed to say...
Jake said everyone thinks my posts are inappropriate.
Not everyone, Haley. That's not what I'm saying at all.
You are such...
You're just such a gossip. I'm not gossiping. I'm just trying to help you. If you would just listen to me.
You're just jealous into me. Oh, yeah, listen to this. And I expected more from you.
Haley, what are you talking about?
Gossiping about my posts. Are you that lonely that you've got nothing better to do?
Haley? Wait, please.
Were you left feeling a bit tense? If so, you know what uncontrolled anger can lead to. Now that we've defined uncontrolled anger and considered what it can lead to, the next question is, how can we put away uncontrolled anger? First, we need to recognize the danger of uncontrolled anger. Proverbs 25:28 states that as a city broken through without a wall is the man who cannot control his temper. Strong city walls were vital in ancient times. Without them, a city would quickly fall to invaders. Likewise, so will those who cannot control their temper. By losing control, they make themselves vulnerable to the invasion of wrong thoughts, thoughts that can cause them to hurt themselves and others. Uncontrolled anger can do just that. Next, after recognizing the danger, we must pause and then deal with the anger before it causes us to do something that we will regret. When anger grows within us, we're wise to recall what happened with Simeon and Levi. We might also recall what happened in the video dramatization that we just viewed. You see, in each case, pausing before reacting out of anger may have spared much pain and heartache. True? That is why we have this warning at Proverbs 17 and verse 14. Before the quarrel breaks out, take your leave. With that in mind, each of us should ask himself, do I tend to jump to conclusions when I don't have all the facts? If so, can I take my leave and put away anger before it starts to build up? The inspired advice found at James chapter 1 and verse 19 will help us to do so, but only if we make a sincere and determined effort to apply what it says. Let's read that verse, James chapter 1 and verse 19. And here we find some simple steps to help us put away uncontrolled anger. It says, "Know this, my beloved brothers, everyone must be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger." If we ask Jehovah to help us with this, namely to be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger, He will assist us to do so. He will help us to see the facts of a matter, show understanding, and then put away uncontrolled anger. A word of caution, though. To succeed in doing our part, we must choose our associates wisely. We could undermine all of our good work and Jehovah's help in controlling our anger if we choose associates who are arrogant, opinionated, or quick to become angry. Regarding someone who is disposed to rage, Proverbs chapter 22, verse 25 warns, "Never learn his ways." Well, we've enjoyed another outstanding series of talks that should help us to keep awake, maintain fine conduct, and escape the judgment that will soon come in on this world. As this symposium has emphasized, we must do our utmost to continue to put away peace wreckers such as inappropriate boasting, envy, dishonesty, harmful gossip, and uncontrolled anger. If we have a problem with any of the peacemaking qualities that we have discussed in this symposium, seek Jehovah's help to change and then work at it. Our sincere efforts to pursue peace with our brothers and our sisters will influence how earnestly we are awaiting Jehovah's day and His promised new world. Yes, our genuine efforts will affect our hearts and will be noticed by our Heavenly Father. Then, in His great mercy, Jehovah will consider us to be, as His word says, spotless and unblemished and in peace, both with Him and with our fellow worshipers.
Thank you, brothers, for helping us to strengthen our bond of unity. Since the rebellion in Eden, peace among mankind as a whole has been lost. Despite this, Jehovah has given peace to those who trust in Him. How has He done so in the past? And how does this strengthen our faith in Him today? We invite you to enjoy part 1 of the documentary, Jehovah Guides Us in the Way of Peace.
Peace must be sought above all.
Our military forces are committed to peace.
We have chosen peace.
Our wish, our prayer is for peace.
We yearn for peace. We pray for peace.
For thousands of years, humans have tried to find peace. Peace as individuals. Peace as families. Peace for the entire human race.
We want to lay the foundation of peace for generations to come. We want to do the hard work now so our children and our grandchildren can grow up in a peaceful world.
The future we want. Opportunity and security for our families, a rising standard of living, a sustainable, peaceful planet for our kids. All that is within our reach.
Yet, despite humans' best efforts, peace has been elusive. For millenniums, rulers and governments have tried to achieve peace through treaties, resolutions, summits, and, ironically, war. Our peace as humans is more fragile than ever. Man's efforts to bring about lasting peace have failed, time and time again.
This isn't surprising to us. Jeremiah 10:23 tells us, "It does not belong to man to direct his step." Humans were simply not designed to rule themselves.
Good health, safety, overall well-being, these are becoming harder to find as we move further into what the Bible refers to as the last days.
As long as human rule continues, disunity will continue.
It's true that global peace cannot be obtained by human efforts alone. But those who are close to God can find peace of mind right now. Isaiah 48:17 and 18 says, "I, Jehovah, am your God, the one teaching you to benefit yourself, the one guiding you in the way you should walk. If only you would pay attention to my commandments, then your peace would become just like a river."
It's only Jehovah who has the ability to guide humans to real, lasting peace. He promises he will bring this about. Until this happens, Jehovah continues to provide ways for us to experience peace now. How does he do that? By giving us the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. We aren't the only ones whose peace has been challenged. God's Word is filled with accounts of faithful servants whose peace was challenged by the dominating forces of their day. As we study and meditate on these accounts, the lessons we learn from them help us to trust in Jehovah as He guides us to peace.
Understanding how these accounts relate to Jehovah's purpose to bring peace by means of His Messianic kingdom gives us confidence that His purpose never fails, and He will support and guide us on into the future. One of Jehovah's prophets who learned this lesson firsthand was Jonah. Jonah lived in the 9th century BCE. Jehovah assigned Jonah to go to Nineveh, a city of the Assyrian Empire. Based on what he knew about Nineveh, Jonah considered this to be an intimidating and threatening assignment.
The Assyrians are known as fierce warriors, and Nineveh itself is later described as a city of bloodshed. So you can understand Jonah's trepidation when Jehovah asks him to proclaim a judgment message against this imposing city and its pagan inhabitants. In an attempt to find peace, Jonah decides to go far away from Nineveh and boards a boat headed for Tarshish. Tarshish is generally associated with modern-day Spain. So from Israel, this is the complete opposite direction of Nineveh. Jonah found anything but peace.
Look! By the gods. Furl the sail!
Now, this was no ordinary storm. It was so severe that the ship was in danger of being wrecked.
Captain! We're taking on too much water! The storm is for the gods!
The crew cried out to their gods, but Jonah knew the true source of the storm. And now he accepts personal responsibility for the situation.
Lift me up and throw me into the sea, and the sea will calm down for you. For I know that it's because of me that this violent storm has come upon you.
Can you imagine the courage it took for Jonah to make this request? He had no way of knowing if Jehovah would save him, but he did not want others to perish on his account. In his mercy, Jehovah spares Jonah's life.
How am I still alive? What will become of me?
When faced with a difficult assignment, Jonah got up to run away from Jehovah, to Tarshish. Jonah's conscience had to bother him. He had to be questioning his decision. He tried to take matters into his own hands, tried to find his own peace. Where does he find himself? In the belly of a fish. Yet he calls to Jehovah in a moment of despair.
Oh, Jehovah, out of the depths of the grave, I cried to you for help. Please hear my voice. What I have vowed, I will pay.
Jonah could have reasoned that this was the end of his assignment as Jehovah's prophet. After all, he did disobey direction. So likely he was surprised to hear the word of Jehovah come to him a second time.
Jonah, get up, go to Nineveh, the great city, and proclaim to her the message that I tell you.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
At first, Jonah trusted in himself and didn't understand that Jehovah would protect him from the violent Assyrians. But after being given a second chance, what happens? Well, then he puts aside his human concerns and looks to Jehovah for protection.
In just 40 days more, Nineveh will be overthrown. Jehovah, the true God, has spoken. This city will be destroyed. Nineveh will be overthrown. True God will overthrow Nineveh. The true God has spoken.
Eventually, the king himself repents and orders everyone in Nineveh to do the same. Jonah learned a valuable lesson from this experience. By originally running away from Nineveh, he chose to trust in himself rather than putting his trust in Jehovah.
Are you Jonah?
I am.
Mommy said he saved us.
No, Jehovah saved you. I was just a messenger.
Jonah learned that without a doubt, Jehovah protects those who trust and obey him. If Jehovah's asked you to do something, if he's asked me to do something, if he's leading us, He absolutely will guide us through it. Jonah's account proves this.
Although the Ninevites were spared because they repented, that's true, Assyria later returned to its evil, wicked ways. About a century after Jonah's judgment message, King Sennacherib of Assyria brought his armies against the cities of Judah, including the city he wanted most, Jerusalem.
King Hezekiah of Judah was an outstanding king who held fast to Jehovah. From the beginning of his reign, he proved to be zealous for true worship, not only in Judah, but in all of Israel. Hezekiah had done so much to stand up for pure worship. Yet now he is faced with the prospect of a siege against Jerusalem by Sennacherib's armies. Hezekiah agrees to pay Sennacherib a tribute in return for peace. Yet the armies continue their conquests as Sennacherib and his men besiege the strongly fortified city of Lachish. From here, Sennacherib sends a part of his army, as well as military chiefs, to Jerusalem in an attempt to demand surrender. The spokesman for the group was the Rabshakeh, who spoke Hebrew fluently. He loudly ridiculed Hezekiah and taunted Jehovah, boasting that Jehovah was no match against King Sennacherib.
Imagine what these soldiers must have been thinking. Sennacherib's armies were on a warpath, taking city after city. To Hezekiah, this was a defining moment. He had to decide if he would trust in himself or trust in Jehovah.
My brothers, we must remember that Jehovah is fully able to rescue us just as he has in times past.
Hezekiah! Will you not even now face the facts? We are trapped. The Assyrians are at our gate, and you cling to the belief that nothing bad will happen. You will destroy everything you so hope to preserve. The temple, Jerusalem, our very lives.
Shebna, I'm not blind to the dangers that we face. I too am afraid. But if Jehovah allows Jerusalem to fall, so be it. How can we give up what belongs to Jehovah?
So as a man of faith, Hezekiah focused on Jehovah's ability to save his people despite Sennacherib's continued advances toward Jerusalem.
I'm curious about this king of yours. Who does he think will come to save him from me? Jehovah, your God, is weak! He will cringe before my God Asher.
Hezekiah remained determined to trust in Jehovah. This decision required a tremendous amount of faith, especially with more than 185,000 Assyrian soldiers headed towards Jerusalem. Instead of trusting in himself, he continued to look for Jehovah as the source of true peace, even as an attack seemed imminent. And Jehovah again showed just how insignificant human rulers are in comparison to him.
Hezekiah learned that when a way out seems impossible, trust in Jehovah always leads to success. Jehovah rewarded that trust with victory over the Assyrians. This is a lesson we can apply now and in the near future.
There may be situations where true worshipers seem trapped, but never forget, Jehovah is all-powerful. He's leading his people, and we can follow his guidance with full confidence. Jehovah will protect those who trust in him at Armageddon.
Jerusalem remained safe against attack for the time being, but peaceful conditions didn't last long.
Hezekiah's son Manasseh did what was detestable in the eyes of Jehovah. He brought back Baal worship and personally took its vilest practices to extremes, even putting a carved image of a false god right inside Jehovah's temple. So here you have a king who's supposed to be protecting the people from idolatrous influence, doing the exact opposite, building altars to false gods. He even went so far as to pass his own sons through the fire, sacrificing them to these gods. The peace with God that Hezekiah worked so hard to achieve for the nation is now reversed by the actions of his son. Because of this, Jehovah punished Manasseh severely. He allowed the king of Assyria to take him captive to Babylon. While in captivity, Manasseh ultimately repented. He humbled himself, and he stayed faithful right to the end of his life.
Grandfather.
We can imagine him impressing the importance of faithfulness to Jehovah on his young grandson, Josiah.
Listen to me. Jehovah is holy, and you must serve him the way he wants us to. All other gods are powerless.
Yet in spite of all this, the people still thought that they could serve Jehovah and Baal. So after becoming king, Josiah started a campaign against idolatry.
I've seen this cheaper.
Take it or leave it.
We start here.
No!
This is what we will do to every false god in the land.
He tore down altars used for false worship, sacred poles, images, and statues. He was intent on cleansing the land of idolatry. Now, he showed remarkable courage to stand up for true worship at a time when few were doing so. There's no doubt this was a difficult task. At times, he may have even wondered if he was doing the right thing. It's possible Jehovah provided Josiah with assurance from the prophet Jeremiah.
This is what Jehovah says. Look, a son named Josiah will be born to the house of David. And he will sacrifice on you the priests of the high places, those making sacrificial smoke on you, and he will burn human bones on you.
That prophecy, made over 300 years earlier, confirmed that Josiah was the one prophesied to act against false worship. This may have given Josiah even greater incentive and courage to continue his campaign, which now included repairing the temple. These actions contributed to the peaceful conditions that elevated pure worship. Josiah did so much to restore pure worship. That is why we love him. Yet the people's heart condition remained polluted, so the nation required severe discipline. Jeremiah prophesied a conquest of the Babylonians against Judah.
All this land will be reduced to ruins, and this land and its inhabitants will have to serve the king of Babylon for 70 years.
Daniel himself may have heard Jeremiah speak those words, and he certainly saw it come true as he and his family were exiled to Babylon. Talk about peace being interrupted. Daniel was a young Judean prince taken from his homeland and separated from his family. But being chosen to receive special training in the court of King Nebuchadnezzar, that presented another set of challenges. The entire way of Babylonian life was contrary to what Daniel knew growing up in Judah. But Daniel was determined not to pollute himself with foods Jehovah would not approve of. And Jehovah blessed Daniel's determination to be faithful, as he was selected to serve as one of King Nebuchadnezzar's wise men.
Nebuchadnezzar was a warrior king intent on building a great empire. After he officially took the throne in 624 BCE, his domain grew with each conquest. Babylon became an epicenter of trade and commerce. Nebuchadnezzar undertook huge building projects throughout the city, which made the city seem impregnable. Imagine the sense of security the inhabitants of Babylon must have felt, locked safely behind the city's walls. Nebuchadnezzar attributed the prosperity and security all around him to the power of his false gods. The chief of these false gods was Marduk, the god of war. Yet these false gods and their priests would prove worthless. One night, King Nebuchadnezzar had a strange dream.
O king, may you live on forever. Relate the dream to your servants.
We will tell the interpretation.
No. If you don't make the dream known to me, along with the interpretation, you'll be dismembered. And your houses will be turned to public latrines.
There is not a man on earth who can do what the king demands. What the king is asking is difficult. No one exists who can tell this to the king except the gods.
Seize them. Kill them!
Jira.
You're in danger.
Why? What happened?
I didn't hear everything, but the wise men angered the king. Everyone's to be executed by dawn.
Bring Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah here. I'll try to learn more.
This edict to kill all the wise men would also include Daniel and his companions. So let's look at this from Daniel's perspective. Here he is, young man in a foreign land, serving in the court of one of the most powerful and violent men alive. And that man is now demanding that someone, in effect, read his mind. Tell me my dream, and tell me what it means.
O king, interpretations belong to my God Jehovah. He knows your dream and what it means.
Well, where is your God? Where?
I believe that I know that he will reveal it to me. Please, give me time.
Daniel is not acting on previous experience. He hasn't received interpretations of dreams from Jehovah. Instead, he is acting on faith. Faith that he had learned by studying the sacred books of his time. These books likely included the inspired writings of Moses and David, Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, and other prophets. Oh, we can only imagine Daniel poring over these scrolls, opening up his heart to Jehovah, begging Jehovah to give him wisdom and understanding. He loved it. And there's no doubt that as Daniel studied these accounts, his faith was strengthened and his bond with Jehovah drew even closer. So even though Daniel knew nothing of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, he was fully convinced that Jehovah would reveal the dream and its interpretation and prove to be Daniel's salvation.
Do we know exactly which accounts Daniel was able to draw from at this time? It's impossible to say for a certainty, but we do know he had access to the books. He references the prophecies of Jeremiah. Daniel could see how Jehovah blessed faithful, obedient men in the past. So by asking Nebuchadnezzar for time, he wasn't looking to buy himself another day of life. He was allowing Jehovah to reward his faith by revealing the dream to him.
Daniel strikes a balance here. Although he is confident that Jehovah will reveal the dream to him, he isn't casual in the way he handled the situation. He did what any God-fearing man would do here. he approached Jehovah in prayer.
Oh, Jehovah, surely you didn't bring us here just to die. What will people say? We told them that you are the God of the heavens, the only God who can reveal secrets. Please, vindicate yourself.
I found a man from the exiles of Judah who can make known the interpretation to the king.
I know who he is. Can you really make known to me the dream that I saw and its interpretation?
There is a God in the heavens who is a revealer of secrets. And he has made known to King Nebuchadnezzar what is to happen in the final part of the days. This is your dream. You saw an immense image. That image was standing in front of you. You yourself are the head of gold. But after you, another kingdom will rise, inferior to you. Then another kingdom, a third one of copper that will rule over the whole earth. As for the fourth kingdom, it will be strong like iron. The kingdom will be divided, and as the toes of the feet were partly of iron and partly of clay, so the kingdom will be partly strong and partly fragile.
This took a tremendous amount of faith and courage on the part of Daniel. Now, we may find our peace threatened. Our very lives might be on the line. In that moment, we can turn to Jehovah God in prayer, opening up our hearts, confident that he will support us.
Like both Daniel and Jonah, we've been given an assignment to proclaim a message. This requires courage to speak out boldly concerning Jehovah's judgments against those who oppose his sovereignty. Both of these prophets are excellent examples of Jehovah backing those who trust in him.
Jehovah will always be with us as long as we have faith in him. When we face situations that seem impossible, as in the case with Hezekiah, we have the ability to tap into the most powerful force there is.
As this system comes to a close, we will find ourselves in situations that test our courage and threaten our peace. We will have to stand up for pure worship, just like Josiah. And this will be unpopular. But with Jehovah on our side, we can face those situations with confidence. He's all-powerful, and he's going to help us through it.
Now, here's the interesting thing. Some of the prophecies that Daniel recorded applied not only to the future of the Babylonian Empire, but also outline world events to our day and beyond. And these events are being fulfilled right before our very eyes.
What a motivating presentation. Even when our peace is threatened, we can focus on how our integrity relates to Jehovah's purpose, and we can endure with joy. We look forward to watching part 2 of this important consideration during the final session of our convention. Now let's sing together song number 130, entitled, Be Forgiving. That's song number 130.